Good morning, everyone. Today is the 6th day of Tishrei, and we're going to dedicate today's learning and loving memory of Leah Bas Elio, the mother of Ilya Bliner, who's here with us. Just said Kaddish for his mother on her yard site. And we are on page 76. Ready? You guys ready? Yeah. Steve is ready. Michael, you ready? Okay, in today's lesson, Tanya teaches us in which stage of the spiritual realm creation begins. We talked about this yesh, the something that Hashem created, and how all levels above it are God's entities. Okay, the flow is as follows. Let's get in touch with the sugya here. Having explained in general terms why the creation of a substantial yesh, something from spirituality, can only come about in a manner of yesh me'ayin and not in a manner of ilah va'olol. The difference between yesh me'ayin and ilah va'olol, I'm not exactly sure, but let's try to flesh it out. Something from nothing and cause and effect. If I throw this, it's going to go through the air, and eventually it's going to land. But how do we create something from absolute nothing? Only David Sher could do that. All right, on a basic level. Having explained the general terms why the creation of substantial yesh from something from nothing, Dal Rebbe goes on to explain that the first stage of the created yesh means there is something, is the kelim, the vessels of the 10 spheres of the worlds of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya. Am I the only one, or did somebody notice the mistake here? The paragraph is doubled up. See that? The exact paragraph. Okay. Vihine, we're on page 76. Vihine.
Maybe there's a reason for it.
Listen, if it's good once, let's do it. If it's good once, we'll do it twice. Vihine. Reishis hayesh hanivra uschilasai hein akelim the yud svirus the bria yitzira asiya v'gam ha'oiros nefesh ruach. So the kelim, the vessels which receive the 10 spheres of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, are also the Oiros, and also the Oiros, Nefesh, and Ruach, are the first stage and beginning of created substantiality, which is Yesh. So in order for creation, it has to come through this, what we call, in other words, Seder Hishtalshelus, has to come through a whole order of the different kelim and lights. So the oiros, the lights that vest themselves in the kelim, in the vessels, are thereby, and thereby animate them, consist of nefesh, ruach, neshama. So that's the lower three candles that you light in the morning. The first three are nefesh, ruach, neshama, which are. That's a very good question. Okay, I assume so. Which are simultaneously three levels in the soul and three levels in the life force, the light, which animate the worlds at large. The two lower of these, nefesh and ruach, also comprise an element of yesh. The kelim, the vessels which hold the light, were created from the category of neshama, the third level, of the 10 spheres of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, this neshama of the 10 spheres being divinity, godliness, meaning the godliness of the spheres creates the yesh of the kelim of the spheres and also their nefesh and ruach. Vehein milamed dalid kelim de malchus datzilos. I'm sorry, not lamed dalid, lamed. Vehein halamed kelim de malchus datzilos, and these oiros of the spheres are the 30, right, of the spheres of malchus of the world of Atzilus. So in the world of Atzilus, even the external aspect, remember, Atzilus, Eitzel, very close to Hashem, the highest level, even the external aspect of the kelim of Malchus is godliness. It is this external aspect of the kelim of Malchus that vests itself in the worlds of Bria, Yitzira, and Asiya, become their soul and life force. These external kelim, the vessels, are composed of 3 10-fold levels. 3 times 10 is 30. And innermost kelim, the intermediate kelim, and the outermost kelim, the 30 in all. Okay. V'chein b'atzilus, it's likewise an atzilus that emanates yesh, which derives from the external aspect of the kelim of atzilus. I know this is very deep, esoteric stuff. Let's just get through it. Listen, it's part of the process. It's part of the Seder Shtalshelus. we can understand when you talk about taking the straps of the tefillin and using them for holiness. But when you talk about how does it all begin, so sometimes we don't know. It's the same thing when you try to explain. We're like the children here. Try to explain to a kid how you plant a seed and something grows, or how a child is born, how that whole process works. It's deep stuff, right? Right, Shana? So too with Atzilus. The external, right, of the Kalim of the 10 spheres of Atzilus, which are godliness, were created, the Heicholos, the celestial chambers of Atzilus. So unlike the Kalim of spheres, the Kalim and spheres in which there's vested the internal level of the Oidos, these Heicholos are the external aspect. Heichol is like a chamber. They're a chamber that are external aspects of the world of Atzilus. Shemislavish Bahen, what's in them? Shemislavish Bahen Bechinas Heigulim the Yud Spheres, in which the category of Igulim of the 10 spheres are vested. So the term Igulim, literally meaning circles, refers to the encompassing mode of influence or makif of the spheres, which does not permeate the created beings, which it illuminates, and a penetrated mode of influence or pnimi, that's the innermost, would make an animated object resemble the life force that it animates. Actually, we touched on this in the Maimer, how we need the vessel. Last night we learned beautiful Maimer. We need the vessel before. So the Nefesh HaBahamis comes first because it gives life to the body. And then Hashem breathes into us the breath of life. That comes second. So you see the difference. Igulim is around. It didn't come in yet. And then Pneumius is what comes in deep inside. A permeating mode of influence, or Pnimi, would make the animated object resemble the life force that animates it. That's the neshama. Veipach papav nishmas chaim. God breathed into us the breath of life. So that comes through the nostril, so to speak, which we also touched on last night. The exterior, or encompassing mode of influence, called Igulim by contrast, allows the animated object to perceive itself as a yesh, albeit an emanated form of yesh. That's like my physical body. I feel like I'm something, I feel like I'm independent. Really, it's all part of Hashem. We got gufais hamalachim datzilus shein b'chinas yesh, and also the bodies of angels. See, for us, we can't relate to that. What are the bodies of angels? But they're also a created entity, spiritual in nature. We can't tap into that. But from Hashem's perspective, it's a physical. It's not physical, but it's a creation, which are a form of yesh, are created from the external kalim of the spheres of Atzilus. Malachav Yasim Tahala. And his angels he charges with deficiency. What does that mean? The phrase his angels implies that those nearest Hashem, vis-a-vis the angels of the world of Atzilus, yet even these are deficient in that they are yesh and not divinity. They're created, they're something. So they're a creation, which means they weren't there before, and then they have an expiration date too. So, but they're not Hashem. But of course, everything is Hashem, so that's where it gets a little complicated. But from their perspective, they have a job to do. They want to sing praise of Hashem. They feel they want to connect and they want to be batal to Hashem, but they also feel like they're independent in a certain sense. They're not wholly in a state of nullification, as the olol is relation to the ilah. Because when you have a cause and effect, they feel completely connected, and you see it. But with a yesh and an ayin, it feels like two separate things. All right, guys, deep stuff today. Let's try to give it an overview, a synopsis here. The takeaway is Kabbalah 101, yesh, which literally means it. It's funny because it says here literally, but yesh means something. But here it says in existence is a term that denotes a creation. Right? It's a created being, an existence which appears to exist outside of God. While the ultimate expression of yesh is our physical world, which at the fore seems to work on its own. Where's God? We don't see God. But Hashem is there, of course. And a person has to contemplate and recognize Hashem's hand in everything. It begins in some fashion, in a more pristine state of the downgrade of divine energy. All right.
Have a good day.
Have a good day. What else? And a good Tvach. And Gemach Simut Teva.